SeaWorld Orlando became the site of a horrifying discovery when a homeless man by the name of Daniel P. Dukes was found dead in an orca tank, with his body covered in bruises and bite marks. Tilikum, the massive orca who was believed to have caused this tragedy, was already tied to past fatalities, and once again found himself at the center of another marine life atrocity. But what really happened that night, and why did Dukes risk getting so close? Daniel P. Dukes, a 27-year-old man known for his free-spirited and adventurous personality, became the focal point of one of SeaWorld's most chilling and controversial incidents. With a history of unconventional behavior and a fascination for the unknown, Dukes reportedly evaded security measures to stay overnight in the park, a decision that would tragically cost him his life. What began as an act of curiosity turned into a grim event that reshaped the conversation around captive marine animals. On the morning of July 6, 1999, SeaWorld staff were greeted by an unthinkable sight. Dukes' lifeless body was found floating in Tilikum's tank, draped over the massive orca's back. His body bore clear signs of trauma, including severe bruises, abrasions, and bite marks, indicating a violent encounter. The discovery not only left the staff stunned, but also reverberated across the marine park industry, raising immediate questions about how such an event could occur. Investigators pieced together a troubling timeline. Dukes, it appeared, had entered SeaWorld the previous day as a regular visitor. As the park closed for the evening, he managed to evade security and stay behind. At some point during the night, he stripped down to his swim trunks and entered the frigid waters of Tilikum's enclosure. His motivations remain unclear. Did he seek a closer connection with the orca? Or was it a spur-of-the-moment decision driven by recklessness or fascination? Whatever the reason, his decision set the stage for a tragic encounter. Once in the tank, Dukes was no match for the sheer power and unpredictability of the orca. Tilikum, weighing over 12,000 pounds and measuring more than 22 feet in length, was one of the largest orcas in captivity. Despite his size and fame as a star performer, Tilikum had a troubling history of aggression, likely exacerbated by the conditions of captivity. Dukes' body showed evidence of a violent struggle. Investigators noted injuries consistent with being bitten and thrashed. While orcas in the wild are known for their playfulness and intelligence, captivity can lead to stress-induced aggression. Experts speculated that Tilikum may have initially acted out of curiosity, only for the situation to escalate as Dukes struggled in the water. Whatever the orca's intent, the encounter ended in tragedy. To understand the context of Dukes' death, it is essential to examine Tilikum's history. Captured in 1983 off the coast of Iceland at just 2 years old, Tilikum was separated from his family and thrust into a life of confinement. Initially housed at Sealand of the Pacific in Canada, Tilikum's early years in captivity were marked by stress and harsh treatment. He shared a small tank with 2 female orcas, who often displayed aggression toward him. Tilikum's first known involvement in a fatal incident occurred in 1991 at Sealand. During a routine training session, a young trainer named Kelty Burns slipped into the tank. Tilikum, along with the 2 female orcas, dragged Burn underwater repeatedly, preventing her from surfacing. The event shocked the marine park industry, but was attributed to a tragic accident rather than the orca's aggression. Following the closure of Sealand, Tilikum was transferred to SeaWorld Orlando, where his troubled history continued. By the time of Dukes' death, Tilikum had already displayed behavioral issues linked to captivity. Experts argued that the stress of confinement, lack of stimulation, and isolation from natural social structures had taken a toll on the orca's mental well-being. His size and strength, combined with the frustration of captivity, made him unpredictable, a fact that would become tragically evident. Dukes' decision to enter Tilikum's tank remains shrouded in mystery. Some suggested that he may have been unaware of the risks, viewing Tilikum as a gentle giant rather than a potentially dangerous predator. Others speculated that Dukes, known for his adventurous spirit, sought an up-close experience with one of nature's most awe-inspiring creatures. Regardless of his motivations, the incident highlighted the inherent dangers of close interactions with wild animals, particularly those held in captivity. Orcas, despite their majestic appearance, are powerful predators with instincts honed by millions of years of evolution. When confined to tanks far smaller than their natural ranges, their behavior can become erratic and aggressive. The death of Daniel P. Dukes sparked widespread controversy and criticism. SeaWorld faced intense scrutiny, with questions raised about its security protocols and the ethics of housing such powerful animals in captivity. Critics pointed to the incident as evidence of the dangers posed by keeping orcas in artificial environments, where their natural behaviors are suppressed and stress levels are heightened. In response, SeaWorld implemented stricter safety measures, including enhanced barriers and improved surveillance to prevent unauthorized access to enclosures. However, the incident also reignited broader debates about the morality of using orcas for entertainment. Animal rights groups seized on Dukes' death as a rallying cry for reform, arguing that orcas like Tilikum should never have been confined in the first place. Dukes' death was not the last tragedy associated with Tilikum. In 2010, Tilikum was involved in the high-profile death of Dawn Brancheau, an experienced SeaWorld trainer. During a performance, Tilikum pulled Brancheau into the water, resulting in her death. The incident led to the release of the documentary Blackfish, which delved into the ethical and psychological issues surrounding orca captivity. For Tilikum, the tragedies in his life emphasized the complexities of human-animal interactions. While he was a symbol of marine park entertainment, he also became a focal point for calls to end the practice of keeping orcas in captivity. Tilikum's story, including his involvement in Dukes' death, served as a stark reminder of the risks inherent in confining such intelligent and powerful creatures. The death of Daniel P. Dukes marked a turning point in the public perception of marine parks. It forced institutions like SeaWorld to confront uncomfortable truths about their practices and the consequences of captivity. While supporters of marine parks argued that such incidents were rare, critics pointed to Dukes' death as part of a broader pattern of issues tied to the confinement of apex predators. The Strait of Gibraltar is a vital maritime passage, a corridor between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, known for its bustling activity and scenic beauty. On May 4, 2023, a sailing yacht found itself at the center of a terrifying encounter that would underscore the unpredictability of these waters. It was a tranquil spring morning when the sailing yacht embarked on its journey through the Strait of Gibraltar. The crew, seasoned sailors familiar with the region's currents and winds, navigated the calm waters with ease. The sky was clear, and the distant silhouettes of Spain and North Africa framed their route. For the crew, it was another routine voyage, a day to enjoy the serenity of the open sea. The yacht glided effortlessly through the strait, its sails catching the gentle breeze. The rhythmic lapping of waves against the hull created a soothing soundtrack to the journey. The crew was in high spirits, exchanging stories and laughter as they charted their course. There was no indication of the chaos that was about to unfold. Without warning, the tranquil scene was shattered by the appearance of a pod of orcas. Their sleek black and white bodies emerged from the water, their dorsal fins cutting through the surface like knives. At first, the crew was awestruck by the sight of these magnificent creatures. Orcas, often referred to as killer whales, are known for their intelligence and social behavior. Yet, the crew's admiration quickly turned to alarm. The orcas began to circle the yacht, their movements deliberate and coordinated. The crew watched in growing unease as the animal's behavior shifted from curious to aggressive. Then came the first impact, a powerful strike against the yacht's rudder. The vessel shuddered violently, throwing the crew off balance. The force of the blow made it clear that this was no accidental encounter. One orca after another rammed the rudder, their immense strength causing visible damage. The crew scrambled to respond, shouting commands and attempting to steer the yacht away. But the orcas were relentless, their attacks precise and unyielding. The rudder, a critical component for steering, was their primary target, and it wasn't long before it was rendered inoperable. The impacts grew more frequent and forceful. Each strike sent vibrations through the hull, creating a sense of impending doom. The crew tried everything to deter the orcas, from banging on the sides of the yacht to throwing objects into the water, but nothing seemed to work. The pod continued their assault with chilling determination, their behavior suggesting a level of coordination that left the crew baffled. As the situation escalated, panic set in. The crew worked frantically to assess the damage and stabilize the yacht. Water began to seep into the lower compartments, a grim sign that the hull had been compromised. The once confident sailors now found themselves at the mercy of the orcas and the elements. Their attempts to radio for help were met with static, adding to their desperation. The crew's fear was palpable as they realized the yacht's fate hung by a thread. They donned life vests and prepared for the worst, their minds racing with thoughts of survival. Despite their efforts, the relentless attacks left the yacht crippled. The rudder was destroyed, and the vessel drifted aimlessly, a sitting target for the aggressive pod. The Spanish Coast Guard, responding to a distress call from a nearby vessel, arrived just in time. The sight of the rescue ship brought a wave of relief to the terrified crew. The Coast Guard managed to evacuate them from the sinking yacht, ensuring their safety before the vessel was claimed by the sea. The yacht eventually sank near the port of Barbate. It remains a haunting reminder of the encounter. For the crew, the rescue marked the end of a harrowing ordeal, but the psychological scars would linger. The experience of being attacked by one of nature's most powerful predators left an indelible mark, altering their perception of the sea and its inhabitants. Their story, shared with maritime authorities and the media, became part of a growing narrative about the dangers posed by orcas in the Strait of Gibraltar. This incident was not an isolated case. The Strait of Gibraltar has become a hotspot for orca attacks on boats, with sailors reporting an alarming increase in such encounters. Researchers and marine biologists have been working to understand the behavior of these orcas, which appears to be highly coordinated and targeted. The focus on rudders, a critical part of a boat's steering mechanism, suggests a learned behavior that is spread among the pod. The attacks have raised questions about the motivations behind the orca's actions. Some scientists believe that the behavior may stem from environmental stressors, such as declining fish populations and increased boat traffic in the region. Others theorize that the attacks are a form of play or exploration, with the orcas exhibiting their intelligence and problem-solving abilities in a way that humans perceive as aggression. For the maritime community, the rise in orca attacks has become a pressing concern. Authorities have issued guidelines for sailors traveling through the strait, advising them to avoid areas where orcas are known to congregate and to report any sightings immediately. However, the unpredictability of these encounters makes it difficult to fully mitigate the risks. The Strait of Gibraltar, a vital maritime corridor, has become increasingly synonymous with stories of orca encounters. On July 24, 2024, the crew of the yacht Bonhomme William experienced firsthand the power and unpredictability of these majestic creatures in a harrowing attack that left their vessel lost to the depths of the sea. The Bonhomme William, a sleek 50-foot-long yacht, was making its way through the Strait of Gibraltar on a sunny July morning. The weather was pristine, with calm seas and clear skies, offering ideal sailing conditions. The two-person crew, experienced sailors who had navigated these waters many times, reveled in the tranquility of the voyage. As they passed through the strait, the dramatic cliffs of Spain to their north and the rugged coastline of Morocco to the south provided a picturesque backdrop. The yacht cut through the waters effortlessly, its polished hull glinting in the sunlight. The crew took turns at the helm, enjoying the rare peace of open waters. For them, this journey was an escape from the mundane, a chance to reconnect with nature. Little did they know their serene voyage was about to turn into a nightmare. It began subtly. A shadow beneath the water, a slight ripple, and then the unmistakable sight of dorsal fins slicing through the waves. A pod of orcas appeared in their black and white forms, an awe-inspiring sight against the deep blue sea. At first, the crew watched in admiration, captivated by the graceful predators, but admiration quickly turned to alarm. The orcas circled the Bonhomme William, their movements synchronized and deliberate. The crew's unease grew as the animals began to close in, their intentions unclear. Then, without warning, one of the orcas struck the yacht's stern with a resounding thud. The impact reverberated through the hull, jolting the crew and shaking their sense of control. Before they could react, the pod launched a coordinated assault. One by one, the orcas rammed the yacht's rudder, targeting the steering mechanism with precision. The crew scrambled to respond, attempting to steer the vessel away from the attackers, but the damage was already taking its toll. The rudder, essential for navigation, was rendered useless within minutes. Each strike from the orcas was a display of their immense power. The yacht groaned under the repeated impacts, its fiberglass hull creaking ominously. Waves splashed over the deck as the yacht stopped to one side, leaving the crew struggling to maintain their footing. The orcas showed no sign of relenting, their behavior eerily calculated and relentless. Panic set in as the Bonhomme William became increasingly vulnerable. The crew, seasoned though they were, had never faced anything like this. They shouted to each other over the chaos, trying to formulate a plan. One of them grabbed a flare gun, firing into the air in a desperate attempt to deter the orcas. But the pod seemed unfazed, continuing their assault with an almost mechanical persistence. The yacht began to take on water as the damage became catastrophic. The crew frantically worked to seal the breaches, but their efforts were no match for the relentless force of the orcas. The steering was completely compromised, leaving the Bonhomme William adrift and at the mercy of the sea and its attackers. As water flooded the lower compartments, the crew knew they were running out of options. They activated the yacht's emergency beacon, sending out a distress signal. Time was running out, and their priority shifted from saving the vessel to saving themselves. The Spanish Coast Guard, responding to the emergency signal, arrived just in time. Their patrol boat cut through the waves toward the stricken yacht, its crew fully aware of the dangers posed by the pod of orcas. As they approached, the Coast Guard used loudspeakers and sound-emitting devices to try and drive the orcas away. The Bonhomme William crew, now huddled on the deck, waved frantically as the Coast Guard neared. In a carefully coordinated operation, the Coast Guard managed to get the sailors off the sinking yacht and onto their patrol boat. The rescue was a tense and delicate operation, with the orcas still circling the area. Despite the crew's safe evacuation, the yacht could not be saved. The Bonhomme William sank slowly, its once pristine hull disappearing beneath the waves. The crew watched in silence as their beloved vessel was claimed by the sea, the orcas finally dispersing as the yacht vanished. The attack on the Bonhomme William was one of many incidents that summer, part of a disturbing pattern of orca aggression in the Strait of Gibraltar. Researchers and marine biologists, already investigating the rising frequency of these encounters, were left grappling with questions about the behavior of these intelligent creatures. The targeting of rudders, in particular, appeared to be a learned behavior passed down among the pod. Some scientists theorized that the orcas viewed the rudders as objects of interest or even as a form of play. Others suggested that environmental stressors, such as declining fish stocks and increased boat traffic, might be influencing their behavior. For sailors in the region, the attack stressed the growing risks of navigating these waters. Maritime authorities issued advisories, urging vessels to avoid known orca hotspots and to report sightings immediately. Yet, the unpredictability of these encounters made them difficult to avoid, leaving sailors and researchers alike searching for answers. If you enjoyed this video, watch our next one shown on screen.